Hello and welcome back to round one coverage of the 2023 European Championships. We have some incredible competitors here today for you, battling it out on a really fun course here in Tallinn, Estonia. We are happy to be bringing you round one back nine MPO feature card coverage, brought to you by MDG Media. I'm Connor Wood, and with me, Elias Luukkonen.
What is up, Connors? What is up, viewers? Nice to be here once again. We had some good scoring on the front nine, specifically from Mauri, Villmann and Niklas Anttila from our card. In fact, you can see Mauri being tied for the lead of the event and Niklas only one stroke back. The other two guys, Jakub and Joe, not having the hottest of front nines, but still in good position to score on this back nine that is actually bringing some more distance compared to the very short and technical front nine. We're continuing on a medium-long par 4 of 193 meters. It's one of the easier holes you want to score on this course. Of the first drive, you have a very late gap with a low ceiling. It's a pretty wide gap. You want to get through this gap with some good distance, hopefully stay pretty much straight to avoid the left and the right side OB. After the perfect drive, you're set up with a pretty routine approach. There's really only one big tree in the way of this approach. You can either go forehand around it to the left, or more of a straight to high swing shot around the right side. It's really a dealer's choice. Definitely one of the holes that all of these guys would like to pick up the birdie on.
A great hole. Very good park-style golf here, some beautiful trees. We see Niklas getting us started here on the back nine, getting a long turnover flight and finding the fade just in time. Some really nice forwards movement and progression up the fairway there for him. Finding the full flight under the low ceiling can be tricky. We will see Mauri now coming into this round, as you mentioned, tied for the lead, going to the back nine rather, and he's put a great move on this, but he's pushing that right side, finding a tree along his way. Looks to have settled somewhere safe, but maybe slightly obstructed.
Yeah, pretty good break there actually to stay in bounds even after that tree kick. And he's still gonna have a good chance for the birdie. And Jakub here, another pretty low drive. We saw a similar shot from him on hole 7, another low ceiling par 4. Just not quite getting the nose flat, but rather a little bit down on the drive. But he's actually still gonna have a decent shot at a birdie. And Joey here is challenging the left side Mando that I didn't even notice because it rarely comes into play. But just barely comes before the Mando, and he also has a shot at the basket, although might have to go with a standstill because of that difficult footing.
We see Jakub now and what he's left with. After grounding it early, we'll need a lot of distance here as well as accuracy. Giving a great entrance into that early mouth, comes up just a tad short, but a very nice controlled placement shot. As we see the trees open up a little bit, the flag was moving. And Joe here from a very awkward patent pending stance, giving it a great drive and also piercing one of those late gaps into the green. Really nice shot from a compromised stance and great composure.
Super good shot. That might actually end up giving Joey enough of a putt for his first birdie of the round. And Mauri here trying to go around the outside with the forehand. Comes out quite a bit early and he's actually outside the circle on a relatively simple approach. Let's see if Niklas can improve on that. As Connor mentioned on the front nine, he has been very consistent with the forehands throughout the recent events. This time pushing it a little bit too far there. We're gonna have a couple of nice chances from circle 2. Hopefully setting up for some big putts here.
We see Niklas now at his lie goes for the wide straddle. And he gives it just a little bit too soft of a bid there, really giving it a nice width and line, but just a touch low. And Jakub now with the laser putt, but also just low off the nubs. A real heartbreaker there, skipping upwards, but not in. Both of them will be taking pretty easy pars though.
And Mauri as well, missing from circle 2. None of those were easy putts. And Joe, actually, with possibly the worst position off the tee, has a chance to take a stroke, but he unfortunately does not. It's gonna be all pars on this hole 10. Pretty big surprise, as I imagine this hole must be scoring under par. What's the average here, Connor?
In fact, despite having 26% of the field find the birdie, it actually averaged 4.11, just over, because of the high volume of double and triple plus bogeys relative to some of the other holes.
Alright, so pretty tricky hole, even though for these guys, I'm sure all of them are expecting at least a look at the birdie, as they all had. But no delivery here. Also, I feel like this is one of the easier birdies on the back nine, specifically as after the next hole we're gonna move on to some more difficult ones. But this hole 11 is still part of this technical, shorter, easier part of the course. It's only 102 meters. Pretty much a straight shot with another low ceiling at the end of the shot. Really need to drive something forward pretty fast to get it all the way to the basket. Most people actually going with a fairway driver here, despite the short distance of 102 meters. The shot is pretty much straight. You only have those 2 trees at the end that you have to decide whether you want to go right side or left side of.
And Niklas here, pushing that ceiling, trying to bite off as much distance as possible, is able to filter through and get himself into an open putt. But that elevated basket, putting from those ranges, can bring some more complications. We'll see Mauri now look to get it just a little bit lower.
It looks like that's exactly what he has done. What a nice line. Even challenging the long right side OB. But he's safe there. That's a nice shot. The OB on this hole is pretty close on the right and long. It's only about 8 meters both on the right side and long. But usually not coming into play because of this low ceiling, keeping players from going that far. Just look at this shot from Jakub. Going with, I believe, a harp. Able to push the ceiling perfectly through the right gap, and he's gonna have an easy birdie.
A great delivery from Jakub there, really smooth, and you see the value of that low-speed disc having little to no ground play and able to shape that with a ton of control. We see Joe here looking to access the left side with his backhand and finding the early skip, have significant rightwards movement early, but you see he's left with this putt, and it's a healthy bid. Touch too high, but he can walk away knowing that that was a good chance there. This is Niklas for his birdie from about circle's edge.
That's a nice make there. We saw Niklas had some pretty solid putting on the front nine, specifically from inside the circle, after just a single miss on, I believe, the second hole. But continuing that strong stroke there. And talk about strong, Mauri with a bit of a too strong of a putt there.
And Jakub, though, he's good for it. Also a pretty powerful putt from that short distance. He's known to putt quite hard, regardless of the distance, but working for him there. Jakub's really had an interesting round, starting off really hot in the first half of the front nine, and then having some consecutive bogeys and struggles on the course. You can see that he's still going into this back nine with the attacking mindset, as both Jakub and Niklas do secure the birdie here on 11. Joe and Mauri walk away with the par.
Now we're moving on to some longer holes, some par 4s on this back nine. Starting off on 12 with a long 237 meter par 4. Once again, you have a low ceiling off the tee. You're trying to throw either a straight backhand that turns to the right at the end, or a nice flat to overstable forehand. Really, both of them are great plays. Just want to get as much distance off the tee as possible while staying in bounds, avoiding both the left and the right side OB. Then from the sweet spot you have a nice left to right approach to this quite well protected basket. It's really well protected from the right side, but if you're coming in with a forehand hyzer or a turnover, there's really nothing in the way. This is a great hole and a very difficult one. That's a nice shot from Niklas, fading out perfectly to the right. He's gonna have that one tree to contend with, but other than that, the position is pretty much perfect. Just didn't get a whole lot of distance, but I believe he should have either a turnover, a roller, or a forehand from there.
And Jakub here looking to shape the aggressive roller with the understable disc, getting that full turnover to the right. You see he's trying to cut off as much distance as possible around the bend. And he spun out a little bit early to push super far forwards, but a nice shape regardless. We'll see Mauri here go to his forehand. We saw from Niklas the soft flex with the anhyzer release towards the left side. Mauri looking to play more of a hyzer flip towards the right side, but not finding the turn required. Kicks off the tree line out of bounds.
That's one of the toughest positions you can be on the hole. The early right side doesn't really leave you much of a chance to go at the basket unless you're able to throw a huge turnover or roller. This is challenging the left side OB. And Joey has ended up right there next to the fence, not getting the fortunate kickback. He's also going to have a tough position from there.
Par pretty much out of play for Mauri there. You see that is a great shot even considering the circumstances to get some good distance from what you mentioned as one of the least ideal positions to go out of bounds. You see Joe here also quite pinched. Hopefully going to open up for his left-handed turnover flex here.
Pretty nice looking line here. If he can just get a little bit of a skip here, he might be putting. And looks like that's the case. Joey just outside the circle there. That would be a phenomenal par save if he could get one. And Niklas here, I believe we're going with a turnover FD. Very nice controlled shot here. Perfectly to the circle. What an incredible angle control by Niklas Anttila there. Able to get within 5 meters from 120 away.
That is textbook Anttila right there. That shape, that throw, the accuracy, the slow turn, really great control of his discs. We see Jakub here trying to fight his way to the green. Not able to hit the initial gap and will be left with quite an upshot remaining, considering it's his third. Playing for the skip, and he almost puts it in, skipping a chain high past the basket. You can see he still chooses to get aggressive, although with the ground play, meaning can't go too far. Solid chance for him, and Mauri there finding similar troubles, leaving him at edge of circle.
Let's see if Joey can make this for the par. Would be an incredible par save after the that's a tough miss there. I really wanted him to have that one, as Joey is gonna have another bogey on the scorecard. Let's see Mauri here. Very important putts. Does not get it, just splashes out that Prodigy right side. Those ones usually catch in these baskets as they have a little bit more, they're a little bit more loose on the sides, so they catch very well from the sides. And Niklas there with just nice, almost a tap-in birdie.
Very effortless game plan and execution for Niklas there. We see Joe coming back, does secure the bogey putt. And as you mentioned, still on the hunt for his first birdie of the round, has been scrambling and finding himself in trouble off the tees, doing a great job to still try and secure a lot of pars from unideal positions, but still trying to translate that first birdie. And Jakub there making sure to put that in confidently. Mauri here tapping in quite an uncharacteristic double bogey for him with compounding errors, which is something which is the uncharacteristic part of that Mauri is normally very level-headed and minimizes his mistakes.
Luckily for him, there's some nice chances for birdie coming up on the last 6 holes, starting on 13. Still a very difficult par 4, but also very birdieable. Off the tee you have that OB line. On the right side of the line you see on the screen. You're trying to throw either a hyzer over the OB, or some people either going for a forehand or a turnover over the inbounds area to stay safe the whole way. And pretty much no matter where you land, you have a straight to slightly right turning approach. If you're more towards the left side of the fairway, it's also a low ceiling. No surprises there. The ideal landing area is as close to that right side OB as possible, but especially with this hyzer shot, it's extremely scary to push that right side.
And Niklas, still retaining the box, has put 2 birdies together in a row now. Does not manage to cross inbounds.
That's tough. That's kind of the worst mistake to do on this hole, as you only get to advance about 20 meters off the tee. And Jakub, using a lot more stability, this might be challenging the left side OB.
It just can happen quite commonly if your card mate makes the mistake that someone may overcompensate, trying to avoid that error as well. Perhaps Jakub, seeing Niklas's line, adjusted more to the left side. We'll see Joe now look to shape likely the turnover backhand here to get some good leftwards movement and hopefully a late fade to push the distance. But this is aggressively turned over and catches the orange net and not able to find his way back inbounds as well. Hole 13 doing a little bit of damage to our feature card off the tee. Mauri here with the forehand.
Forehand is nice because it's flying mostly over inbounds, although looks like this one never got to the inbounds area. That's a very surprising and a big error from Mauri, since I believe both Mauri and Niklas will have to continue from the short side of the OB.
And with a lot of work left to do, Niklas ensuring to put that one in. Still flying over OB the majority of the flight. You really have to erase the previous shot and just focus on getting a solid comeback shot. We see from Mauri, very similar, both of them throwing the power hyzer, not really pushing anything too understable to fight distance, knowing that the priority is getting inbounds and up there. Joe now.
Another very tough position here. Able to land in bounds luckily there with that high release, and he's pretty much in the ideal drive landing spot, as is also both Niklas and Mauri. And here's the shot I was talking about, the low ceiling, slightly right turning shot. Looks like Niklas is doing a great job of it. Able to land in the bullseye, wow.
That's an incredible line that he's able to shape that so nicely through there, really using the entirety of the gap available to him in both height and width, getting the power just right. We see Semerád now, the only person to have his tee shot inbounds, able to attack the green, but he sneaks OB long. You can see that comes into play well short of the edge of circle 1, really encouraging these competitors to have a thoughtful, touchy approach. Mauri here, fighting his way up to circle's edge as well. Quite a recurring theme here that the OBs are very close to the greens in the basket placement here in this course design.
Very true. I feel like majority of the holes have OB inside the circle, so you definitely need to watch your speed control. Let's see if Joe can do that here, but he's fading out towards the right side OB, and this is gonna be a big number. He has already gone OB for the second time, and I believe putting for, is it for a 6 now?
I believe so. And you know he wants that, is able to give it a chance, but as you mentioned, that's going to be a big one. And Mauri now, from just at circle's edge. Great adjustment to some of his previous putts there. Still catching strong side, but keeping it in. And that's 2 over par holes for Mauri in a row. Still in an alright spot at 3 under, but not maintaining pace with the guys who are really pushing the score at this point. Jakub there with a solid putt for his par.
I feel like these 2 holes, holes 12 and 13, definitely are some of the more difficult holes. And some of the holes that have the biggest bogey potential. You know, every hole coming up after this is shorter in distance as far as what you need to throw to get the birdie. Also a bit less tighter with the OB.
And we see just the difficulty of hole 13 here, averaging a 4.42. We have the top two players on this card both carding a bogey. We see a triple there for Joe, and Jakub walking away with the par, playing it half a stroke over. They get to go to hole 14 though, which is a little bit of a breath of fresh air on this back nine.
Now that those two really difficult par 4s are over and behind us, we're moving to a pretty easy one. Might be one of the easiest holes on the course, hole 14, par 4 with only 172 meters off distance, and also pretty much nothing in the way. The only thing making this hole slightly more difficult is the OB, both right side and left side, tightening up pretty good at that middle part of the fairway. So players really have a decision whether they want to push that tighter OB part or to just lay up safe, short of that OB. And this hole even reachable. Gotta give a shout out to Rasmus Saukkoreipi, who was able to make the eagle from around 12 meters.
That's incredible. A great feat there. As you see, simply a smart placement shot for Jakub. And I appreciate the narrowing in this course design. Really forces players to throw thoughtfully and with a good intent. And I think their disc choice really a signal of what they're going for here. Niklas looking to shape this flex out, have it fade back nice and safe as well. He's done just that. You don't need the distance off the drive with only 172 meter par 4.
Very true. Even Niklas there, I believe, going with an MD5, or might have even been a tactic. So just trying to put it about 90 meters down there, have that nice 80 meter hyzer approach. Everybody so far in the good position. I feel like what really makes this hole so easy is that it doesn't matter that much where your drive is, as long as you're in bounds.
Yeah, very valid point. Pretty much anywhere in this fairway, it is open to attack the green. And we see Joe there with a good shot as well. Hope to see him bounce back after a difficult last few holes. Both him and Mauri struggling on holes 12 and 13 have an opportunity to take the birdie here now, which Niklas is looking to find himself, and surely that'll be enough as he finds himself just outside bullseye, a stock hyzer, and great speed control.
Even Niklas going MD5 and mutant on the second shot. So playing very short this hole 14. And Joe there, nice approach. That's definitely gonna be his first birdie of the round. Nice to see some green on that scorecard of his, and maybe he can start getting some birdies on these final holes after that.
Mauri also using the stability to get that spike hyzer into the green. Does leave himself in a little bit of a tester range, but he has been pretty good on the green. His recent bogey strokes coming more often from the throwing. We see Jakub now. I like the use of height to minimize ground play. They're going to spike in and just sort of settle. Jakub getting a small skip there, finding himself just outside. There's a bit of a downslope left and long of the green, although quite soft.
That's going to be a very disappointing miss from Jakub, as he knows just how easy this hole is to birdie. He's going to lose a stroke to the entire lead card here, or the feature card, excuse me. And also a majority of the field. How easy was this hole playing, Connor?
This one came in at a 3.46 with the aforementioned eagle, as well as 60% of the field finding the birdie. More than a half stroke under par. Was the easiest hole on the day.
That's a great statistic, and you can definitely see why that is, as it's pretty straightforward. 3 out of 4 birdies on our card, that's very nice, and we're moving on to hole 15. Another very scoreable par 4, although definitely more difficult than the last one. This time we're playing uphill with once again a low ceiling off the tee. You need to throw a low, straight to slightly turning drive, hopefully get somewhere in this opening where you have a beautiful approach, this huge pond. Try not to hit the trees on the other side of the pond, otherwise you might end up right in the drink. The approach really sets up nice for a straight to overstable shots. There's only a couple of trees to miss.
A great hole, very visual, very thematic. And we see Niklas having 3 birdies through the last 4 holes. Really using the height and turn there. Very solid tee shot.
Yep, very nice from Niklas, and he's gonna have a bit more of a hyzer angle to the green, I believe. He might even prefer that. It's kind of down to the player's choice whether they want to have more of a hyzer or a straight shot. You can really see that on the stability of their discs. Mauri going with something slightly understable. Gets a great break. Misses the corner tree that is right next to OB, and he is in prime position there. If that had even touched the corner tree, he would have been OB left for sure.
We'll see Joe now coming off the momentum of the birdie on 14. As he gets a good drive out there. From there, I think he is able to throw the straight shot or the hyzer. Like you said, sort of a shooter's choice. And we'll see Jakub now. Has been shown some solid lines. Also a very natural flex player. Really likes to get the disc turned over, and you see that just flatten out. A little bit low to complete the full fade, an S shape, but a good shot regardless, just leaving him more distance into the green, which you see here.
Just 100 meters here, or even less, might be 95 actually. Misses the last tree perfectly from the right side, and he is absolutely parked. Leaning onto the pole, I believe. Let's have another look at that. Jakub going with that overstable harp, even from far ways out. Perfectly missing that last tree, and that's an incredible approach. Hopefully he can get some momentum with that shot after not the hottest round. I'm sure he was hoping for a much better score at this point.
Master of his craft there. Some great harp play coming out of Jakub this season. We see Joe looking to access the green himself and does clear the pond, but doesn't have the height and hit the gap cleanly to push to the basket. Will leave him with a tester putt, potentially awkward footing as well. Mauri here with the solid position, looking to shape likely just the one angle hyzer, trying to crash and split the trees. And does get caught up on the initial one, but filters through to the healthy side rather than towards the pond, and that will leave him an open putt. He is quite favorable in the straddle putt anyway, so he'll be comfortable there, I think. Niklas even more left with the wider hyzer.
Yep. Nice position there. Kind of left a bit of a putt. I'm sure he's not quite happy with that, but should be no problem for Niklas, who has been putting solid for this round. Let's see if Joe can get another birdie in a row. Not quite. Another nice looking circle 2 putt. He's really had some strong efforts from that 14 to 20 meter range.
And often into the band, I believe his 3rd or 4th just of this round alone. We see Mauri there with what looked to be a healthy putt, but just on the left side. And with that height, we do see right to left movement as well. Being on left side chains, it might catch that flight plate and push it out. That could go either way, but Mauri not able to connect on that one. Niklas with an opportunity.
Very surprising there. Looked like a very good line out of the hand, but just not quite getting the height. That one's gonna sting, as Niklas had a chance to push his score to 8 under, which would undoubtedly be one of the hotter rounds already of the day. Now he's gonna have to settle for 7 and hope for some birdies on these last holes. Which on 16 I'm sure he and everybody on the card has a great chance, as it is another low ceiling, no surprises here. This time a very short 101 meter par 3. Really the ceiling is the biggest challenge here. The line is pretty wide, you have some good room on the gap. You can shape it even slightly from right or a little bit to the left if you want to. But with this low ceiling it's almost difficult to get the whole distance. And if you throw it a little bit harder to get the distance with the low ceiling, you might just end up going OB long. That is actually inside the circle behind the basket. So all about distance and height control on this one.
We see Jakub up first. The tendency for players to disc up with that low ceiling can find them in trouble. Jakub there, shaping I think what is an overstable mid-range, getting himself up there into circle 2. That elevated basket will be left with a choice to make. Sitting at 3 under will be a good signal of if he wants to attack and really push, take some risks, or is content ending under par and looking to the next round. We see from Niklas there a little bit too high and does not get too much progress, most certainly just a chip hyzer from there and taking par.
Both Niklas and Jakub going with slower discs there, which is not very common in this one. I feel like a lot of the players in the field disking up to a fairway driver, as looks like Mauri has done here with a beautiful shot, able to utilize that straight fairway driver perfectly under the ceiling. And he's gonna be taking a stroke on at least Niklas and Jakub. Let's see if Joey can get it here. Actually going for the hyzer gap. That's nice hyzer line for the forehand. But he does not quite get the full skip to the basket. So all three of Joe, Niklas and Jakub are gonna have extremely long looks if they even want to run at this elevated basket.
And I think fairly irresponsible given the OB behind. Niklas though, really looking to push and try to find his place on the lead card of round 2. Gives that a bid despite the danger, able to float it with a nice nose-up adjustment. Joe here as well, a long flex putt.
Just under the basket there. You might hear the announcer on the background. There was some of the later FPO cards going to the courts right now as the MPO was finishing. Or actually, I believe the junior women as wow. Incredible putt from Jakub Semerád. Not distracted by the announcing. He has made it from upwards to 20 meters. What an incredible make.
I was going to ask you how the announcer might affect the mental focus of these players on the green in a pretty critical high-stress moment. Jakub there thriving off the conditions, and we see laser focus and a laser putt. Beautiful height the whole way. Well shaped by that man as he continues to battle down the stretch and end strong in this first round.
That was incredible, especially with the elevated basket. Let's see if Niklas can get it. Of course he can. That's good for the par.
Representing Czech Republic.
Par is really the common score here, right? What do you think, Connor?
Absolutely. You see minimal birdies and bogeys, although more birdies than bogeys. This one did average 2.92. However, 70% of the players found the par 3. And you can see why. The danger long really discourages from trying to push the distance, but if you don't, you can end up quite short and be left with a tricky look at the elevated. It's a good design and another fantastic design. What do we have here, Elias?
Hole 17, just a tough, tight, low ceiling tunnel shot, even going slightly uphill. So difficult to get all the way down there, or all the way up there on this basket. Have this last path that is usually just beyond of where the best drives or the common good drives land on this one. Very rare to see somebody parking this hole, and most people going with a pretty fast disc, either fairway or distance driver, even with this 99-meter distance. Also, there's that Mando, the red dot on the right side, and also OB, both left and right side of the fairway. But look at this.
What a well-crafted line by Jakub Semerád there. A beautiful flip up, puring the gap and slowing it down in time on the backstop. It does only say 99 meters, but uphill playing probably like 110 or 115. So players will have to give it a solid throw here, but really testing your control, ultimately.
And Mauri getting the skip off the path. What a nice result there, also inside the circle. Very rare on this one to be inside the circle, and these guys really showing why they have deserved their spots on this feature card. Also Niklas, I believe a very good thrower of this particular shape, as he's pushing the right side, not quite able to get it into the circle, but that's a long look. Definitely better than average on this one.
Joe here having a tougher round, has 2 holes left now to try and find himself some more opportunities, although they're very difficult holes. He does pierce through and fade back into center fairway. He will also be left with a long look, and you mentioned it previously, he's been pretty solid at giving bids from this range.
Yeah, this time going with a bit of a throw, and that's a nice line. Oh, just barely missing it. Very good touch shown there by Joe. And Niklas here from 20 meters, playing pretty far with this uphill.
But incredible putt. As he walks that in, you see him take a breath there, moving himself to 8 under going into the final hole of round 1. Incredible putt at a crucial moment in his round. Just when you think his round has slowed down, we slow down the putt. What do we have, Elias, here?
I don't know, I think that's like probably above 20 meters, to be honest.
Right, that's outside circle too.
Yeah, for sure. Look at that. Great advertisement for the Team Finland shirts. You guys might have noticed every player from every country is wearing their country shirts. Pretty cool feature to this tournament. And Jakub here from inside the circle. That was just a bad putt. Looked really weird out of the hand. Tough miss there on this very difficult hole that the birdie would really taste good on.
And that is it there from Mauri, putting himself to 6 down. Elias, do you think that the players feel a little bit more pressure than usual, representing not only themselves but also their country at quite a major level? Do you think that impacts their mindset coming into this tournament?
For sure. I think all the way around this tournament has some of the most pressure in Europe out of any tournament, as it's truly a unique event and only held every 2 years. Really feels like a major level tournament here in Europe, although it's not called a major, but might as well just be the biggest title we have. And this is where it's all gonna go down on Saturday. Hole 18, 161 meters, a huge downhill shot filled with OB. You're going over the OB for the entire way. OB ending only about 15 meters before the basket. So you better clear it or you're pretty much re-teeing. Each and every player on this card has a great chance to get the birdie here, as it's playing much shorter than 161 meters. Usual shot here is a big hyzer from either side. Today in particular we actually had a headwind here, so players are probably taking a more overstable disc than usual and trying to just hammer it forward with some decent height.
Mauri getting us going here on the final hole of round 1. He's calling for it to sit as that hyzer pushes all the way up and into the green, just outside the circle. This hole Although it is at 161 and it does require a solid throw, not as much of a distance check as it might look like. Really, the angle is important here off the elevated tee with the wind and letting the disc do the work here. Trusting the overstability for the big hyzer if that's the line you choose, and Niklas shaping that here.
Nice line, hanging it out more right than most players. It's a pretty scary line to go for that wide, but he knows his shot, he knows his disc. That's inside the circle to give Niklas a chance to go 9 under on the round.
Very solid, showing off his skills here today. We see Jakub now is sitting at 4 under at the moment. Has had a roller coaster of a round but kept it clean on the back 9. And he's looking to end strong here, also finding himself inside the circle. Nicely done, leaving him with about 8 to close out the round.
And on this hole, I believe on some of the betting sites there was a bet for whether somebody's gonna ace this hole or not. And that just sparks up the thought what an incredible ace it would be to ace this hole, as it is the final hole of the course. One of the best possible aces you could have, as Joey has thrown a nice shot there just outside the circle. Gonna have a great chance to end on a highlight putt. Let's see it here.
The odds of the ace are slim, but the odds of the birdie very much in play here for our card. We have Joe up first. Another band, just giving these very straight lines right to the baskets, and a lot of those band hits for him here today. Putting confidently but not translating. Is able to hopefully hold his head high and move into the second round. Making a few adjustments, and we see Mauri here to get to 7 under, and he too finds the band. So close.
That's a tough miss. He knows the worth of every stroke is huge, even in this 4-round tournament. Let's see Niklas here from in the circle, and that's a nice putt to finish. Going 9 under on the round. An absolute solid round with a play that did not look solid all the time. I feel like he really did make some pretty big errors. So Niklas definitely has the chance to even improve on that great round.
A very valid point as we get a look at Jakub here. Able to secure it, finds himself at 5 under for the round. And I think what you mentioned, Elias, is the sign of a really solid player, that even their quote-unquote bad rounds are scoring great and they're able to put themselves in position constantly to attack and win tournaments. Joe, ending at 5 over there with the par, was able to secure his birdie on 14, but otherwise had some trouble off the tee. Was very solid on the scrambles to save a lot of pars, though. What a round and what a tournament we have kicking off here.
Yeah, definitely one of the best tournaments all year, most exciting ones, and highest level also. It's the best field we've ever had in the European Championships. As we take a look at the top 10, Dennis Augustsson just destroying the course with a 12 under, even had a nice 105 meter eagle throw in on hole 10. Albert Tam right behind him at 11 under. Another incredible round, and Niklas Anttila going 9 under from our card. Joona Heinen gonna be finishing out the top 4 there. And shout out to Dennis, he actually tied the highest rated European round of the year in the MPO division with that round. Incredible. Thank you guys for watching, and thank you Connor for doing commentary with me once again.
Always a pleasure, Elias, and always a pleasure to welcome our viewers back to the channel. If you would like to support us, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and you can check us out on Patreon as well. Some exclusive content coming there soon.